Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy. And this is where characters gather. This morning, we're going to talk about what I read last week and what I'm going to read this week. So, I didn't have any DNFs for the week. I have one book I have read, which I'm not going to talk about because it's upcoming in a video this week. Stay tuned for that on Wednesday. And after that video posts, I will then talk about it in my weekly wrap-up. I did forget last week to talk about my book club choice for April. I did finish it last week. It was Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson. That video, I believe, comes out on Saturday. Book group meets on Friday of this week. So if I will talk about that one next week as well. So that's taken care of. Everything else, amazingly, was on my Kindle. I read 2 arcs. I read an ebook from library. I've started a 3rd arc. I've started another one for my spring into Christian fiction, which I will talk about at the end of the video. So let's talk about the first arc I read. And first, let's talk about Authentically Izzy by Pepper Basham. This is a contemporary Christian romance told in epistolary form, in text and email, and some prose thrown in. This was so much fun and so incredibly enjoyable. I cannot recommend this book enough. I loved every word of it. And it's not, yes, it's labeled as Christian fiction. No, it is not preachy, in your face. Every other word isn't religious based. This is just, when Pepper Basham writes Christian fiction, which is what she writes, it is what I call the gentle, everyday faith that we all express as we just go about our daily lives. You know, the sudden silent prayer to God for something to go right, or to ease someone's pain, or to, just take a moment and say thank you. That is the kind of faith that Pepper Basham writes. And that is the kind of faith I truly enjoy, and not just in her books, but in Christian fiction in particular. I prefer that everyday expression of faith versus the in-your-face, proselytizing, overtly demonstrative faith. I have trouble relating to that. I have trouble connecting to those type of characters, so it's not something I enjoy. That is not present in anything I've written or read by Pepper Basham. Authentically Izzy is funny and sweet. It is full of literary references and so utterly charming. So Lizzie is a librarian in her hometown of Mount Airy, North Carolina, famous for being the place that the Andy Griffith Show was set and filmed. She is a librarian, and her meddling older cousin has decided that it is time Lizzie finally, get married and have the happily ever after that Josephine is currently experiencing. So she, without her knowledge, signs Izzy up for a online dating service and tells Izzy about it afterwards. Lizzie, in a panic, goes and reviews her profile and, makes some changes, but doesn't expect anything to come of it. And imagine her surprise when she gets an email from someone calling himself Brody the Hobbit. Brody is too good to be true from Izzy's perspective. So too good to be true that she actually suspects that it is Josephine in disguise. And so she pens an email back to Brody the Hobbit, pouring her heart out, accusing Brody of being Josephine, and it turns out it wasn't Josephine. It was actually this very sweet man named Brody the Hobbit. I do not have enough wonderful things to say about this book. I have a blog post about it. I will link it down below, like always. Do yourself a favor. Ignore the negative reviews on Goodreads if you use it. Trust your gut. Go pick up Authentically Izzy. Just go experience the joy that is Izzy and Brody. Next up, I read the arc from NetGalley for Positively Penelope by the wonderful Pepper Basham. This is she's not calling it a series, but it is a series. Follow-up to Authentically Izzy. It deals with Izzy's youngest cousin, Penelope. And Penelope has graduated from college. She has gotten an internship in the mythical, magical island of Skymar, which Pepper has set between Scotland and Norway. And she is going to go intern at the Darling House, which is the oldest playhouse on one of the islands of Skymar. This book is just magical. I have no other word for it. It is uplifting and positive and funny and sweet, and a 7-year-old named Iris steals the entire book, and Penelope uses her unique charms and skill to save a failing playhouse and stitch a family back together without knowing she was doing so. She falls in love with Grumpy Gray. She learns to ride a bicycle. She's almost killed. She conquers somewhat her fear of a sea monster in the shape of a sea urchin. You read this book. It comes out in September, by the way. Put your pre-orders in now. And all you want to do is, pop Cinderella movies and Julie Andrews movies in and watch them and just remember that magical feeling you got as a child when anything and everything was possible in life. Pepper Basham is this wonderfully terrifying, amazing author who brings characters to life and who writes about faith and life in a way that is relatable and enjoyable and uplifting, and she fills your soul with joy. It's the best way I can describe her books. She just fills your soul with joy. So Authentically Izzy is another 5-star Pepper Basham read for me. I loved everything about it. Next up, I got the ebook from my library of The Sweet Life by Suzanne Woods Fisher. It is the first book in the Cape Cod Creamery series. I have the arc for the second book. So obviously I needed to read the first book first. It's the first time I've ever read Suzanne Woods Fisher. So I didn't know what to expect going in. It was a wonderful follow-up read to 2 Pepper Basham books in a row. This tells the story of Dawn and Marnie, a daughter and mother. Dawn's fiance, Kevin, breaks off their engagement 2 months before the wedding. She, of course, is heartbroken, can't figure out why he was going along with everything she wanted, so she doesn't understand. He tells her, you take the honeymoon, it's paid for, it's the least I can do. So she takes her mom on her honeymoon in April in Cape Cod, where she learns that her mom just discovered she had breast cancer and underwent surgery and never told Dawn a thing about it. And Dawn is not heartbroken. That's not the right sentiment. She's heartbroken, but she's not. If it had been me, I would have been a crying, weepy, sobbing mess. Dawn is incredibly controlled and incredibly laser focused on her career as an accountant, and she doesn't seem to let emotion in. So while on Dawn's honeymoon, her mom goes off and wanders around trying to give Dawn some space to heal and recover and come to terms with the left turn life just threw her. And she's walking downtown Main Street and she comes across a for sale sign in the shop of a building that used to house an ice cream shop. And on the spur of the moment, she decides to buy the building. Dawn, of course, thinks this is a horrible, wacky, nonsensical decision that she can't justify. Marnie, however, is completely in. She has, the money from when her husband passed away a year ago. She's decided to use that to buy the building and get the business up and running by Labor Day. Mind you, their vacation starts in April. Labor Day is at the end of May. Or Memorial Day, which is at the end of May. That is a very tight line. Deadline to get a new business up and running. Then all the little, things you would expect happens in a small town in Cape Cod. Kevin keeps checking in with her mom. Dawn knows nothing about it. Dawn loved to make ice cream with her dad. And so she's focused on perfecting vanilla ice cream from scratch and is ignoring anything else. And it all comes to a head. Kevin comes back into her life. And surely, as the book progresses, Dawn begins to relax as a character, as a human, as she goes from very much your typical type A, ultra driven, everything else is nonsense type of character to life throws you curveballs and you just need to roll with the punches, and you cannot plan for every eventuality in life. It's just a physical impossibility. You just cannot do it. And it is a very sweet book. There is faith in it. It is once again the gentle, everyday expression of faith. Dawn doesn't go to church yet. Her mom does, but it's not in your face kind of church going. This is a uplifting, positive, make you relax and feel good read. It leaves you feeling hopeful. Even when the worst happens, God never shuts one window without opening another somewhere in your life. You just have to find it. This was an easy 5-star for me. I loved it. So I then picked up the arc of the second book in the Cape Cod Creamery series, which I have from NetGalley, and that is The Secret to Happiness, also by Suzanne Woods Fisher. This tells the story of Callie, who is a cousin to Dawn and Marnie's niece. And she was once the executive chef at a big name Boston hotel who got very publicly humiliated and fired when she accidentally gave food poisoning to the Food Health and Safety Conference that the hotel was hosting and she was feeding. Needless to say, this has completely shaken her confidence in her skills and adding to that very public display of incompetence. At the age of 28, she thinks she has MS, which her mother died of when she was a very young child. And those two life choices or happenings together are just too much. And she has become, in essence, the polar opposite of what she once was. And she gets a job doing menial work at the Penn State Ice Cream School, which is held every year in January. And she bumps into her Aunt Marnie, who is there, so that she can take over the ice cream making business while Dawn and Kevin go on their honeymoon. And Marnie invites Callie to Cape Cod to recover because she can see that there is something very wrong with her niece. She's not sure what, but there is something very wrong with the bubbly, talkative, happy person that she's always known compared to the silent, morose, depressed shell of herself that is remaining. Callie accepts. She moves in with Dawn and Marnie and moves into Dawn's bedroom with Dawn. So there's two grown women in a very small bedroom upstairs from the creamery shop. Dawn is determined to get Callie out because as children, they were always competing against each other, and Callie was always winning, and Dawn was always second best, and she just does not want Callie to take over her spot at the creamery, where she's finally found a more relaxed, peaceful pace of life. So Dawn tells Callie, look, you can stay, but you have to go to the Secret to Happiness classes over at the community center every Saturday morning and get your life back together. Callie agrees very reluctantly, but she stays nonetheless. And there the story begins. How does Callie find her way back? And does she find her way back to who she was, or does she become someone new and different and better than what she was? This is even better than the first book. And the faith is the same kind of gentle, everyday expression. And one of my absolute favorite things about this book, if not my favorite thing, is every morning Callie begins to take a walk from the creamery to the beach at the, and watch the sunrise. And she learns to call it her holy moment. And I just, someone who I love to watch the sunrise. It is a peaceful time, and it is very much for me a holy moment. The world is waking up and everything is new and fresh, and it's just that moment to say thank you, and to remember that a life without saying thankful and being grateful for what you have and for those in your life is a life that is very empty and very lonely. And that is something Callie learns in this book. And this was a very easy 5-star read. This series should be read. Go pick it up, do yourself a favor, make yourself a very, very happy reader. So the arc I just started is The Lost Manuscript by Molly Rushmeyer. This too is from NetGalley. It is, I'm not very far into it. It looks like it may be dual tie line, but right now it is looking much more like it's just going to be historical fiction. However, we're starting off in present day, so I'm not quite sure where to classify this yet. It is going to be Christian fiction of whatever subgenre. I will let you know when I get further in. I like it so far. There is a lot happening in the first several chapters. I am very intrigued. It opens up with our protagonist getting ready to sell her house because her husband has absconded to England and her grandmother is missing, and her husband calls and lets it drop that her best friend is now going to the same place in England to work for him. And oh, by the way, could she come there too and take a teaching position because he needs her, and he just found a letter from her grandmother, and hope springs alive in her chest that maybe her grandmother is still alive and she can find her. I am very intrigued. So it is something I shall be reading. And I last night started A Castaway in Cornwall by Julie Klassen. I'm 60, 80 pages in. I am very intrigued. It started off a little slow, but I think that has more to do with the fact that the last 5 books I have completed, 6 books I have completed possibly, have all been contemporary in nature, and the writing has been a little more fast-paced. This is historical in nature, and the writing is a little slower in pace. So I think it was just a matter of me adjusting. I, however, am enjoying the story. I can connect with the characters, so I am sure I will have no trouble finishing this in the next day or two. And after that, I'm going to read some more in Texas, and I need to pull a couple of more books from my Spring of the Christian Fiction list for the month. And I'll probably read another arc or two this week. Book club is this week. So it's been a good reading month in April so far. I have enjoyed myself. What have you read? What did you read last week? What are you looking forward to reading this week? Let me know down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. And I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.